Hello everybody. I'm going to read one of my favorite stories. It's called The Hunter. It's a Chinese folk tale retold by Mary Casanova. Once, in a tiny Chinese village, wedged between mountains and sea, lived a young hunter named Hailey Bu. Though Hailey Bu was a good hunter, providing fresh fish and meat for the villagers as best he could, a drought came. Day after day, the sun scorched the countryside and burned the villagers' crops. Soon there wasn't enough food to go around. The children rarely laughed, the young women seldom sang, and the white-haired people were too weak to leave their mats. Worst of all, the villagers began to argue and stopped listening to one another. With each passing day, Hailey Bu hunted deeper and deeper into the forest, desperately searching for food. One day, he spotted a small pearly snake sunning itself or warming itself on a rock. Not wanting to disturb the snake, Hailey Bu crept softly around it on the withered grass. Suddenly, a crane dropped from the clouds, flapping its long gray wings. It snatched up the pearly snake and climbed high into the sky. "Help me!" the little snake cried. "What?" thought Hailey Bu. "The snake can speak?" With a whisper, the hunter's arrow flew, swoosh, and though it missed the crane by a feather, it dropped. The bird squawked and released its hold, and the little snake dropped to the forest floor and silently slithered away. The next day, Hailey Bu returned to the forest. The little snake approached down the path. "My father, the Dragon King of the Sea," she said, "wants to thank you for saving my life. Will you come?" Though Hailey Bu needed to hunt, he didn't want to offend the snake. "Of course," he replied, and followed her down a winding path to a crystal palace beneath the sea. From its throne, the Dragon King asked, "What do you want for saving my daughter?" Hailey Bu shrugged his broad shoulders. "What more could I need except to better provide for my people?" The Dragon King showed Hailey Bu his 1,070 treasures: sparkling rubies, forest green emeralds, and shimmering pink pearls. "I will give you anything." "Your treasures are beautiful," the hunter answered, "but the only thing I desire is to understand the language of animals. Then I can be a better hunter." The Dragon King reared back, and from out of his mouth shot a round stone. "Take it," he said, "and your wish will come true. But remember one thing. You must not pass on the secret of your gift, or you will surely turn to stone, like the one you now hold." With the stone in its leather pouch, Hailey Bu returned to the village. From the chatter of finches, he learned where mountain goats wandered and where wild boars were bedded down. He learned of shallows where fish were plentiful and where clams clustered in the sand. Each day, Hailey Bu returned to his parched village with an even greater offering of food. Soon, the village was filled with laughter. The children's cheeks grew round and soft. The white-haired people left their mats to share their stories. The young women sang songs and whispered about who Hailey Bu would someday marry. But one day, dawn came and the forest was unusually full with the chatter of birds and animals. "Lightning and heavy rains are coming," cried the foxes. "The entire village will be flooded." Tomorrow, the bears bellowed, the mountaintops will crumble to the sea. Who knows? The birds called. How many people will die? Boo's mouth grew as dry as the drought. He dropped his bow to the ground and rushed back to his village to warn his people. Listen, he shouted. We must leave. The village will be destroyed. The villagers gathered around him, looking sideways at Boo. Maybe he's been at the woods too long, said a young woman. Maybe he needs a rest, said a white-haired man. Maybe he's joking, said a child. Please, begged Boo. You must listen and believe me. A village elder stepped forward. Where did you learn this terrible news? Boo suddenly remembered the Dragon King's warning. He whispered, Do you want me to die so you can believe? Of course not, the elder said. He squared his arms and gestured to the simple huts. But you ask us to leave our homes. How can we know what you say is true? Boo stroked his chin. What should he do? If they wouldn't listen, should he flee and save himself? The villagers pressed closer. Like the wind, they began to stir the treetops. They whispered among themselves. How could he make them listen? He reached into his pouch and in his palm held out the round, luminous stone. But the villagers looked blankly at the stone and at Boo. The hunter sighed. He studied the villagers' faces, young and old, more splendid than jewels. No, of course not. He could never allow them to be destroyed. Raindrops began to fall, plink, 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 on the dusty street. Boo drew a deep breath. He told of the little snake and the Dragon King's gift. Then he pointed to the inky line of birds flying south. Look, he said, the birds flee. As he spoke, his toes grew stiff as stones. Tomorrow, the mountains will be struck by lightning, he added, and his legs became granite hard. The village will be flooded, he said, and his hands stopped in midair. Listen, believe me and have courage. And as he spoke these last lines, his lips turned to stone. The villagers were stunned. They threw themselves at Boo's feet and wept. As the rain grew heavier, the villagers ran to their houses, packed what they could carry on their backs, and fled. The next day, as the animals had warned, the thunder rattled the countryside, lightning cracked the mountain peak, and boulders crashed into the valley below. Raindrops fell in sheets and washed the valley, utterly destroying the tiny village. Days passed and the people returned. But before rebuilding their village, they searched for Boo in his stone prison. They found him half buried in the mud and gently, with many hands and many tears, carried into what remained of the top of the mountain. If only we had not doubted him, the people said. If only we'd listened. And to this day, it is said that somewhere in China, high on a mountain peak, still stands the statue of Boo, gazing upon the valley below, where the villagers listened to every person including the smallest child. I hope you enjoyed the story, and remember, always listen. Have a good day.